everybody that's on stage that gets hypnotized, you will ask them after, you'll say, were you asleep? No.
Yeah.
They're always aware, they just don't care.
He's an award-winning entertainer, international keynote speaker, and peak performance expert. Wayne, welcome to the show.
It is a pleasure to be here, Barbara. Thanks for having me.
I went on stage with you. You were performing at the CAPS convention.
Yes.
And it was the funniest thing because I'm sitting there, I'm going, don't go up, don't go up. And then I went up, and you had us do this activity where we were trying to pull our fingers apart, and you said they were stuck like glue.
Yeah.
And I was up there, and I'm going, yeah, look, they're stuck. Look, Wayne. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, look, Wayne, they're stuck.
Yeah.
And they kept coming apart, and then you just gently came over and you said, oh, Barbara, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the stage.
Yeah.
And it was the weirdest thing because it was like I couldn't will myself to keep my fingers together.
Yeah.
But then when I got off stage and I looked at other people, like they were glued,
Right.
stuck.
And that's a really good segue for me to say, when somebody accepts a suggestion, an idea as true, and they act upon it as true, that's hypnosis. So we're under these trance-like states all the time. Like 70% of the time we're living in these trance-like states. 70, and a lot of our behavior and research through a number of different studies have shown that 95% of our behavior is subconscious.
Right.
And that's really what hypnosis is about, is learning how to set aside your critical or analytical mind, which would tell you, hey, I can get these apart. And to suspend that judgment for that moment so you can put a new belief in there.
Right.
Now, how is that important in everyday life? Well, super important, because if we have negative limiting beliefs that stop us from going forward, that block us from going forward, then you need to reprogram it into the subconscious.
And that's exactly what stumbling blocks is all about. When I work with teams, we try to identify what those stumbling blocks are and then develop strategies to help people get past them.
Awesome.
I have a stumbling block challenge for you if you'd like to accept it.
Up to the challenge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to have you do is pick a block that represents you as a hypnotist, entertainer, as a speaker, and as a parent. So you get to pick 3 blocks.
Okay, cool.
Okay?
Yeah, this one was just calling my name.
Okay.
And then this one was really calling my name too.
Okay.
And then this one was calling my name too.
All right.
So they all called my name.
Okay. Wayne.
Yes.
That's like what I play with my grandson. So now, describe why you picked those blocks and what they represent for
Sure.
each of those 3 roles.
Yeah. So this, for me, was more about the color and growth. So green for growth, and green in regards to me always learning.
Yeah.
Always learning, always sharing, and learning from my kids. Learning from the people that I'm in contact with. Learning from my relationship with my wife. Learning from life in general. So the green, and it always, like I have a saying, and I say it a lot, and it's meaningful in the sense that I feel like I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for 23 years, the shows and my presentations, but it hasn't gotten old. Like, I feel like there's just so much to learn. So it's always that always learning concept right there.
Okay.
Orange, because it's one of my favorite colors, and it's vibrant, and it's a beam of light, and it's standing upright. And to me, this is just shining the best light that I possibly can and being my colorful self. Yeah. And then the triangle, because it's like the grounding, the root of red, and the 2 kids and the wife.
Very nice. I've seen some of your pictures on your Facebook page, and my favorite ones are of you and your kids. But I've seen like pictures where you've got the kids backstage or side stage when you're at your shows.
Yeah.
And I just think that's wonderful. The kids get to come and see you work and do what you do.
Yeah.
What do you think they're learning by watching?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that one, you'd have to ask them, because that's their experience. But from my perspective, I think that, one, they realize that their dad loves doing what he does.
Yeah.
So genuinely that what I'm doing and performing and getting other people to perform and doing the hypnosis, they see that I love it. So I think that's what I hope for them to learn, is that do what you love. Also to, as a performer and somebody that does this, my little guy, he's 6 and he goes, Wayne Lee. And he's doing my introduction, and he's like, and so part of that is learning. Part of that is probably he's got the gene to perform because that kid is just a performer.
With the confidence and the willing to step out.
Yeah. So hopefully, that is something where they see that, being willing to step out there and to be vulnerable and do those things. And I see that. And my daughter's typically a little bit more reserved. But for her to be involved in the activities and blossom more into these things, that's really... That's great to see. That's really great to see. And, it's a bit of a milestone here is that 20 years I've performed at all the fairs, or a lot of the fairs, and I said goodbye to the fairs this last year. And it was bittersweet because it was like at those events where my kids were.
Yeah.
So they really, which was the positive side, is that they got a chance to see me and they got to be a part of that the last couple of years where they were old enough, they got what was going on.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
So what have your biggest stumbling blocks been in building your business?
Being a people pleaser.
Ah.
Yeah. So it's, I told the story and shot a video here not too long ago about somebody that I wholeheartedly trusted. So much, in fact, I was oblivious to what was happening. And it was my assistant who was actually stealing lots of money over 7 years. And one of my patterns, my subconscious pattern, is I want to help you out. Right. And at the cost of my own livelihood and my family's. So that was a real eye-opener because I think my wife goes, yeah, I thought I was going to marry somebody that was a millionaire. I said, yeah, I've probably been a millionaire a few times over, but some of it's been taken away.
Yeah.
And I laugh at that now in the sense that, life is a bunch of learning lessons. And the fact of the matter is that I can look at all of this and there's no one to blame but myself in terms of my own patterns. So what I mean by that is I could see when I was running a business very earlier on in my career, I would feel like I had to keep people on payroll or I had to take care of them, and it just wasn't smart business practice.
Right.
So that was the stumbling block. That was a big part of my journey to where I'm at right now.
Right, and yeah. I remember when I first met you. You traveled with a crew.
Yeah.
You had someone doing the music for you, and now with the way technology's changed, you hop on a plane and go. Yeah,
I think that was conscious and just good timing. And what I mean by that is that I knew eventually there was back around 9/11, I had a Vegas contract that somebody offered me. It was a group of investors, and they said, we want to put you in Vegas. And I was like supercharged. I mean, this was earlier on in my career. It was like, that was my goal.
Right.
I'm going to be in Vegas. And then I felt like it was going sideways, and then plus 9/11 hit, and everything just was a no-go.
Right.
And so I was really upset. I was really disappointed. I guess those are words. I was devastated even. And then there's a silver lining to everything. I think there's always two sides to the coin. It's like, okay, what's next? Mm-hmm. And I was always very much a person that had the 3 E's towards what I did. And those 3 E's were to entertain, educate, and empower.
Right.
And it was like, what a great opportunity for me to continue with my messaging, with the corporate events. And so that was something that was always there. But then it just became really the main focus. And then how could I become like the best in the world at doing that? And that's my journey right now, is really to do something so unique that people, there's hardly anybody doing it, and doing it well. So marrying that really solid entertainment where people are laughing and they're crying and they're moved for the 90 minutes. But then there's messaging where they're like, wow, that's compelling. I could use that.
Right.
Because really the true change and life-changing stuff comes after that event. I mean, that's what happens when people take control of their own lives and they put some of those practices into effect. You were taught, and then I went a little bit off topic in regards to, because I was so passionate about that. But the point is that when I knew that I was going in that direction, I also knew that I wouldn't need people on the road, and the structure of corporate events are different. It wasn't like a rock and roll show where I'm taking 2 guys, one to do lights, one to do recording and sound, and we needed all my equipment because the bars didn't have it. It's like you fly into this event. My ideal, and I had seen it clearly, is that I'm on these big stages. Everything's all, the AV's already there. And at the time, it was in that time where, you got these big CD players, and then it became like MP3s, and then it became iPods. And at that point, there was remote control units.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was more clear on what my show was about in terms of what were the pieces that really worked. So I didn't have to be as spontaneous or sporadic about, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. It became more of a formed performance. Even though it looks very spontaneous,
Right.
the routines can always be that set pattern, and I can just, skip through a couple tracks to the next one. But because I know it so well, that's where the magic happens, is in between those moments.
So
And
how do you? So I'm curious about that, because I know when I'm structuring a workshop, I'm thinking, okay, I'd like to cover this and this and this, and I loosely map things out,
Yeah.
and then when I get to the audience, I try to get to know them a little bit and read them, and then I adapt what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And then things will come up that I couldn't plan for, and so I'm curious about your thought process when you're putting things together.
Sure.
And one of the funniest things I've seen, we were at the CAPS convention. This was after you kicked me off the stage.
Right.
And
I did it nicely, though.
it was sweet, yeah. And John, I don't even know what you asked him to do, but out of nowhere, he ran and jumped and gave you this big bear hug. And I thought he was going to knock you right off the stage.
Yes.
But it was so funny. And like how you can't plan for something like that.
No, you can't, and you can anticipate because I've done it for so many times. The routine that I did with John, and I said, anytime that I have my back turned, you're all going to think I'm the most unattractive person in the world. It was at that point. But when I put my hand out to you, you'll look at me with love in your eyes and you'll dance with me.
Right, okay, right.
So then all these people are like, ooh, and there's this contrast of, yuck, this guy's really... And actually the message to that is that we can change our perspective in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
We can turn the negative into a positive. And it's true. It's just my routine is done in a very funny way. So I'm doing to all these people, females, and then I go to the guys, and they start dancing with me. And if I remember right, John was the last one.
Yeah.
So when I put my hand out to John, he is such a vibrant guy. And I may even whispered, like, jump on me. So it was like, I guided him into that. But it looked so spontaneous,
It
right?
looked totally. I thought you were going to fall off the stage.
Yeah. And with my, I have a wrestling background, so I knew that I could brace myself and hold him.
Yeah, and
So,
I wanted to ask you about that. How do you think your sport background, being a wrestler, prepared you for what you do now?
oh, I think it's one of the biggest pieces. I mean, it's one of the biggest blocks of my life in terms of that shaped me to do what I'm doing now. And what I mean by that is, when I wrestled, I did a lot of creative visualization. I would see myself wrestling before I actually did it. And that's hypnosis.
Right.
So I was hypnotizing myself. I didn't call it hypnosis. And I still remember going to a wrestling camp, and the coach there would lay us down and do this whole relaxation journey through our mind. And to this day, I still use that language that he used with us on stage. So it had a very big impact. And then in pretty much every one of my keynotes now, I tell this story about, I learned the power of focus and how to really focus my mind through wrestling. And it was in grade 10, I said to myself, I'm going to make it into the finals. And the story goes where I say this to myself every day. And I'm so focused, and my coach said, yeah, just keep focusing on that. And sure enough, I get into the finals of the Canadian Amateur Wrestling Championships, but I lose in the final. But the catch is that the person that I lost to actually lost to the person that I beat to get into the finals.
Okay.
And then I said, I felt like I got robbed. I could have won that. And I asked my coach, I said, what happened? He says, well, what do you mean what happened? What did you focus upon all year long? Getting into the finals, but not winning.
Not winning.
In fact, I said, I'm going to make it into the finals. And he said, you need to fix your focus.
Right.
And so that is really the underlying message of my keynote, is fix your focus. People don't need to be fixed. They're not broken. They feel like they're not enough. They're lacking. My premise is that we've got everything. We've got all the resources. But at a subconscious level, we've got some faulty beliefs. And when we can flip our focus and flex our focus, which means that we need to think bigger, not just the silver, but the gold, we start getting more in life. And we start living more. So that was a really profound time in my life, and it played out where the next years I said to myself, I'm going to win gold.
Yeah.
And I did. But it got to the Olympic level, and one of my goals was to make the Olympics. I mean, I was really set on that. And anytime this guy named David Hole was around, I would just say, I can't beat him. So I had negative self-talk, and that was a negative program. And David was such a great wrestler. I don't even know if I had the best mindset, if I could have beat him. But the point is
he
that
still might have been better than you, right?
It sure didn't help to have that mindset.
Yeah.
And so there's 2 points to this. One, you don't just fix your focus and it's done.
Right.
It's an ever-ending journey. It's continually playing a bigger game. It's
well, and you talk
stretching
about all
your
the
mind.
practice.
Yes, the disciplines are really the key. And at times you can bounce back, like you can actually retract and go back into a state where, oh my goodness, I'm in a slump. And then it's about continually moving forward. It's continually focusing and creating that mindset of success and living and playing a bigger game. Yeah.
I love it. And I mean, I love watching you perform. And in the interest of time, because I could stay here and talk to you all day, what's next for you?
Oh, good question. So I have some really great projects that are coming out that'll help me get my message out there in a bigger way. So first of all, in my keynote, like I call it, Set Your GPS for Success. So I really believe that our subconscious mind is very elusive in the sense that you can talk to 10 different people, 10 different experts, and they're going to tell you the subconscious is something different.
Right.
So I have chosen, and I've realized that, what would people be able to latch on to as far as a model of our subconscious? And it's a GPS system. Like, it's our internal GPS, always letting us know that we're on course. So GPS is great programmable subconscious. 3 ways, or a 3-step formula.
I'm going to win gold. I'm going to win gold.
Is first, you got to set a goal. That's the G. P is pretending. You got to actually rehearse as if you've achieved it. You got to feel it. And then the S is stress managing. Go forward and manage your stress as you take action. Anyhow, I've got a book coming out at the end of the year called The Aligned Mind.
Nice.
And it's learning how to harness your subconscious to produce what's wildly possible.
Beautiful.
And so personally and professionally, so it's very much the corporate clients that hire me, the associations. It'll be great for their teams. And just anyone that really wants to know more about the subconscious, how it works, some real personal stories about myself and like the wrestling and my journey and the pitfalls and kind of bouncing back what I've learned. But really then just having a very simplistic model with a 3-step formula where people can go, oh, I could do this. It's not so complex that it's like, wow, I want to simplify. And it's always been my goal to simplify what hypnosis is and how to realize, or how to get people to realize that that's what they're doing all day long. It's just, I'm going to show them how to put it to use. Right. So the book's coming out. I'll have a program called the 21-Day Focus Fix.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay.
So that's a supplement to the book. And I'm doing about 60 to 70 events per year right now. And so I want to take more of that into the States and play on some of the bigger stages. But I'm very excited to do that because where I feel most alive is up on stage doing that.
Yeah, and you're amazing. I mean, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You are world class at what you do.
Well, thank you, Barbara. I appreciate that.
So what's the best way for people to get a hold of you?
So my website is just waynelee.com.
Okay.
And then that'll take you to all the social media platforms, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all the information is on there.
Well, Wayne, thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure, Barbara.
I can't eat, I can't sleep, can't even feel my own 2 feet. What's going on?